Today, I will teach you signs about school. Are you ready? School is made by your two flat hands patting together. School. 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 Word is made by one flat hand, the other hand acts like it's picking something up and putting it in your head. So this is like you're taking knowledge from a book and you're putting it in your head. Learn. 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 Student. A student is someone who learns. So you're going to make the learn sign and then add the person sign. Student. 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 Teach. Teach. A teacher takes knowledge out of her head and puts it in the student's head. So you're going to have your open hands and then they're going to close as you go away from your eyes. Teach. And to be teacher, you do teach and the person. Teach. Teacher. Teach. Teacher. In school, you learn from textbooks, so you need to learn the sign for book. So make your flat hands together, and then you're going to open them up as if you're opening up a book. 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 In school, you also use a lot of paper to write on. The sign for paper is made with two flat hands, like you did when you did school, except you're going to twist your hands so your palms hit together. Paper. 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 When we have those books or papers in school, we need to be able to read them. To make the sign for read, you have one hand as if it's your book or your paper, and then your two hand next to your eyes, and it's going to look at the book and scan up and down. Read, read, read. In school, you often write with a pencil. The sign for pencil is your baby O hand next to your mouth, and then it's going to go down to your paper and pretend to write. Pencil, pencil, pencil. When you have schoolwork sent home for you at night, it's called homework. So we need the sign for home and we need the sign for work. The sign for home is your flat O hand at your mouth and then your eyes. Home. And this comes from home is where you eat and sleep. Home. 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 The next part of that word is work. And I believe we've already done this, but just in case, I'll show it to you again. You need your two S hands, and then your wrists are going to bump together. Work. 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 Now we can put the two together and we have homework. 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 All of you are in a class together, so let's learn the sign for class. Starts with your two C hands with your first finger touching, and they're going to circle around until your pinkies are touching. So you're making a circle with your C hands. Class. 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 In class, you sit at a desk or a table. So one hand is the first part of your desk or table, and then the other hand sits on top of it. Desk, table. Desk, table. Desk, table. Next, let's learn the signs for the classes that you have in school. And the first one we'll do is English. English is a language that comes from England or Great Britain. So this sign is for the country, England, or also for the coursework, English. So one hand is flat, the other hand holds it and pulls on it a little bit. English. 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 Another subject is social studies. Social studies is an easy sign to make because you just need to make your S hand and bounce it over. Social studies. And this is because social starts with an S and studies starts with an S. Social studies. Social studies. Social studies. Math. Math starts with an M, so you're going to make M's with both hands, and then you're going to cross them together. Math. 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 Science. For science, you need to make your A hand and then let your thumb pop out. And they're going to turn them in rotating circles. Science. And I think of this as you're pouring something into a glass. In science labs, you'll often pour things into glass beakers and then add a chemical and see what reaction it makes. So I believe this is why this is the sign for science. 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 Another subject that you may or may not have had this year is poetry. And sometimes poetry is part of your writing classes or your English classes. Poetry is considered to be music in just words, and the words have a rhyme and a rhythm. So the sign for music is like this. So if you want to sign poetry, you just make one hand have a P and you swing the other one. Poetry. 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 The next subject is history, and history starts with the letter H. So make an H, point it outwards, and you're just going to bump it up and down. History. 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 Now, some of you have a subject that you just love, and that is called recess. So there are two ways to make the sign for recess. I think of recess as playtime outside. So you can sign playtime outside, or you can sign recess. And you take your two pointer fingers, one goes flat, the other one hooks it and pulls it up. Recess. 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 And there is another sign for recess. We have playtime outside. We have recess. And this other one is two R's and they just shake. Recess. Recess. So this is play. I think of recess, this recess sign, as being like the sign for play. So you have your two R's and you twist them back and forth. Recess. 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 Another fun subject is library time. And library starts with an L, and then you're going to turn it in a circle. Library. 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 Art, another fun subject. may be your favorite subject, and we've already learned that sign this year. To make the sign for art, you have one hand as your paper, and then you need your pinky up, and you're going to draw with your pinky. Art. 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 Another sign that we've already learned is language, and sometimes you'll study a different language in school. So to make the sign for language, you have your two L's and you wiggle them apart. Language. 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 In math, it's all about numbers. So I want to teach you the sign for number. So make your baby O hand, and then you're going to put them together and twist them. Number. 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 PE might be your favorite subject, and PE is an easy sign to make. You just spell it, P and E. Now the P actually stands for physical, or your body, physical. The E stands for education, which would be ED, education. But to sign PE, we shorten that up and just make a P and an E. PE. 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 After you've studied and studied and learned a whole lot of information, then your teacher might give you a test. So a test has a lot of questions on it. So you're going to take your pointer fingers and draw question marks in the air and then open your hands. Test. And that stands for a whole list of questions that you have to answer. Test. 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 Now many of you often during class raise your hand and ask if you can go to the restroom. And this is an important sign to have so that you don't have to yell out, maybe if you're shopping with your mom in the store, or if you're out somewhere with friends and you need to go to the restroom and you don't want to announce it to the world. You can sign restroom with R, restroom. And this comes from rest starting with an R and room starting with an R. Restroom. 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 To get really good grades, you have to study. The sign for study is made with that flat hand as if it's your book, and your other hand, all 5 fingers are out and they wiggle. It's like you're reading and reading and thinking about what's in that book. Study. 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 helps me when I study to write things down. It helps me remember them. So I have a lot of journals around when I'm learning or thinking about something so that I can write down what I'm learning. So you need your paper or your pretend book is one hand. And then remember that pencil sign? Instead of touching it to your mouth and then the paper, you're just going to write. Pretend to write with that pretend pencil. Write. 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 Now we've already learned a couple of different signs for computer. So let me review those, and then there's a new one in this chapter in your book. The signs we've learned for computer are your two C's, and they rotate around each other. Computer. Now that's an older sign. It's the first sign I ever learned for computer. This computer, where it bounces down your arm, is the one I taught you previously during the year. Computer. Now in your book, in this chapter, there's a new sign, and it's a C tapping your head. Computer. Computer. Now I personally don't like this sign because it could also be someone's sign name. So I think this computer is probably the one that I would prefer to use. Now this year we've learned a lot of signs and a lot of words, and you're now able to sign sentences. So I'm going to sign several sentences for you, but I'm not going to use my voice. I'm going to turn my voice off and only sign. So you need to pay attention and see if you can read my signs and know what I say. All right?